The Savant by Scott Gressitt. Prologue. Barbara couldn't be bothered with him. He's an ass, an arrogant ass, she imagined, watching him pull his Oakley backpack from his trunk. They had met at a weekend yoga retreat in Big Sur. He drove a Porsche. So did she. She had seen him pull into the registration line right behind her, driving a brand new 911 GT3. He was completely tricked out. She, on the other hand, had picked her vintage 356 from a stable of exotics for the drive down the coast from Marin. At dinner, she maneuvered behind him in the chow line and said, grinning knowingly, to his left shoulder, "What's the difference between a Porsche and a porcupine?" He turned, looked her over, head to toe, and answered without a hiccup, smiling benevolently, "With a Porsche, the prick is on the inside. Good evening, I'm Roland." She stood for 2 full seconds, mouth-breathing, completely at a loss, wide with fear. "Are you okay, my dear?" Yes, fine. I just realized I left something important outside," she blurted, flustered and decomposing. She turned without another word and bolted off to her room in a panic. He smiled after her, watching her jerk out of the dining room, panicky and spun. He wondered what was up with her. She was so good-looking, cute, built like a thoroughbred. She fumbled for her keys, unlocked her door, and fell into her room, sweating and scared. Who does that jackass think he is, damn it? She was not used to being out of control. Her life was a long exercise of controlling things. Her parents, her asshole sister, her countless boyfriends, and all 4 of her husbands. She had leveraged her talents as a clever manipulator and person user to amass wealth, power, and prestige. Her assets were counted in 9 digits left of the decimal. Properties around the world, jets, yachts, the works of the masters hanging in all 9 of her homes, and a portfolio of liquid and other assets, the details of which she had long ago lost track. She left every relationship with more in her pockets than when she came in. She was the mistress of money-making, the empress of gold-digging, and had no remorse for any of it. She joked with her girlfriends that when filling out forms, in the blank for profession, she always wrote alimony. She thought that was hilarious. She had watched the Porsche walk in and was disturbed by how enamored with him she was suddenly becoming. He was not her type. He was rough and just slightly unkempt, though handsome as an oak tree. His clothing looked old and worn and carelessly put on. His hair was messy, and he hadn't shaved in weeks. She hated facial hair. But when he glanced at her and smiled, she melted into a puddle and felt herself moistening. This was bad, very bad. She had never felt such an attraction to a man before, and certainly not to one as rough-hewn as he. She looked in the mirror, saw how angry she was, and took pause. "Okay, Barbara, anger's a secondary emotion to fear. What the hell are you afraid of?" She nearly shat in her panties when someone knocked on the door. Who the hell could that be? She put down her bag, straightened her coiffure in the mirror, and moved to the door, opening it a few inches and peering out. It was him. "Oh, hi," she blurted. "Hi there, are you okay?" "What?" she asked rhetorically. "Are you okay?" he repeated, looking genuinely concerned. "Oh yes, I'm fine. Thank you for asking." "That's bullshit. No, I'm a wreck and something terrible is happening to me. I'm completely moved off center by you," she said, immediately shocked by the words that escaped her lips, unchecked. He smiled at her and said, "I've heard I have that effect on women, but they rarely cop to it until they know me better. I'm never honest with men, have lied to and manipulated them for my personal gain all of my life." She couldn't believe her ears, and her heart began to race. Roland stood patiently, smiling calmly, wondering just what was happening here. Eyes bugging open, breathless and out of control, she uttered another damning statement. "I have only used men for the acquisition of money, power, and prestige. I have no idea how to relate to them in any other manner." She wanted to push him out the door and call an ambulance to take her to the psych ward, but instead turned and pulled a chair out from the desk and offered it to him. She then turned, standing with legs spread and hands at her side, faced him squarely, and began to confess her sins to him, one manipulated man at a time. She couldn't stop herself. She thought she was losing her mind as she listened to herself spill the beans, one agonizing confession after another. She poured out her story, explaining every detail of intent, execution, and result. Working over all the suckers she had milked for the last 40 years, to put the icing on the cake, she uttered this closing statement: "I have no idea how to love a man. I hate myself, and I have used that hatred to blanket my use and betrayal of every man I've ever known. I long for love and to learn how to love, and don't know where to start. Please help me." Then she slumped to the floor and looked into his eyes, quivering with angst. He looked at her with compassion and tenderness and said, "I love women, and while I'm not a psychologist, I know enough to recommend you see a psychiatrist immediately." She answered again, wondering where the words came from and what was compelling her to speak so plainly. "I don't know that a psychiatrist can do the job of a priest." Roland, enjoying a triple espresso, watched through the portico as Barbara lugged her bags to the car the valet had pulled up for her. She looked up from her purse as she pulled a 20 out to stuff into his hand. He stood in the morning sunshine looking crisp in white tennis shorts and a white polo shirt, white sneakers, white socks, white teeth, white hair from too much time in the surf, holding the door for Barbara. She said thanks, but excused herself and walked toward Roland, trying desperately to look away from his eyes, staring her down. She walked up to him, pulled up a chair, and said, "I know I should ask if I may join you, but I'm dispensing with pleasantries this morning. I'm angry with you for having this effect on me. I'm getting as far away from here as possible in hopes it wears off. I'm drawn to you in a way I've never experienced. I don't want to fuck you, but I want you to approve of me. I need to know why I give a shit about your opinion. Do you know why?" He looked in her eyes, welling with tears. She meant business, and he was buying her sincerity. He felt compelled to assuage her fears, but found strange words escaping his lips. "What has happened to you is of no concern to me. My role is that of a gatekeeper. I have opened a gate you can go through or not. I have no investment in your choice either way. I will never see you again. But meeting me will forever change everything you believe. As one pilgrim relating to another pilgrim on the planet, I hope only the best for you. Here's my email. Let me know how things work out for you." As she lurched to her feet, he stood and gave her a hug, then a kiss on the cheek. She looked up into his open face and asked, "Thank you?" She turned and raced off to the blue-eyed surfer holding her door. "Thank you, young man," she offered in an uncharacteristically polite tone. Roland enjoyed the rest of the weekend in Big Sur, getting up early and soaking in the hot springs overlooking the ocean. He felt strangely distracted, but engaged the yogis and came fully to the part for the next few days. On a number of occasions he thought of Barbara and wondered what exactly had happened with her. He was even more curious about his remarks to her, which seemed to have come from the ether, somewhere outside of himself.